So last night I watched an NBA game. I wrapped up watching a show called McMillions, which is absolutely fascinating. And I watched Luka Doncic for Dallas, 21 star, and Zion Williamson they played. It was a great game, by the way. It was a great game. Very close. Luka Doncic, if you told me in 25 years, 20 years, Luka Doncic ends up being the number 2 scorer in NBA history, I'd be like, yeah, I can see that. I mean, Karl Malone's like number 2 or 3, right? It's like, I can see that. The kid's played over 100 NBA games. He played over 100 games in Europe. He is a totally refined 21-year-old, just turned 21-year-old player. He's terrific. Zion's played 19 NBA games. He's raw as hell. He's 19. It's a rare back-to-back. They are at different stages of their NBA career. Luka's played European basketball, was the MVP over there as a teenager. He is a much more refined, older, sandpapered player. He is no longer a prospect. He is a great NBA player. He's just going to get better. He's probably 2 to 3 years out of his prime. He's going to be in his prime for 8 years. He's absolutely going to score if he stays healthy over 30,000 points. He is Dirk Nowitzki, but a little better ball handler and a little stronger. Zion's going to be terrific. But it's very interesting as I'm watching these two last night and I'm thinking about this. And Luka was better than Zion last night. Should be. Is that it's very interesting. They have different worlds. Luka goes to his team, hasn't won a playoff series in 8 years. The Dallas Cowboys own the city, suck all the oxygen out of the room. The most famous owner in Mark Cuban. Luka can go drop 28 points a night. No pressure, no microscope. I mean, Dirk Nowitzki is one of the great scorers in NBA history. Not a lot of pressure, not a lot of microscope. Cowboys cross town. Mark Cuban's the owner. There's much bigger brands in the NBA on the coasts. Zion's different. Now, New Orleans is a football town, but Zion's a phenom. Luka's just a great player. Zion's a phenom. Zion's a number 1 pick. Zion played at Duke. Zion's under the microscope. It's the difference between being D. Wade from Marquette and LeBron James, the chosen one. LeBron comes into the NBA, and I remember his first game. D. Wade is great, goes to Miami, but he's able to kind of organically grow, take his time. We're not watching every single game unless you listen in Miami, and then you wake up one day and D. Wade is great. Hasn't had to live under the constant microscope in his first 7-8 years. LeBron's lived under it and handled it brilliantly, it should be noted, but it's a different world. Not everybody can handle it. Luka is going to end up with 30,000 points. I'm sure he'll get a championship. He'll be in the playoffs, but it'll be a different life than Zion. Zion is going to be picked and poked and prodded. Good God, folks, every night. Oh, is it too heavy? You can't last like this. And even Alvin Gentry started showing signs of fatigue. We're 19 games in with Zion and the pressure that's mounting. It's just a different world. We saw this, by the way. Shaq was in Orlando. It's a small town. And Shaq is like, it's too much. I've got to go. Kevin Durant in Oklahoma City. It's just too much. I got to be able to breathe. He goes to Silicon Valley. Now he goes to Brooklyn. We've seen players. Kareem started in Milwaukee. Small town. It's too much. Zion, outside of the Lakers, the Pelicans have had the second most NBA broadcasts this year. This is a small market. It's going to be very interesting. Zion's NBA experience, domestic, Duke, shoe explosion, massive deal, massive pressure, massive microscope is going to be far different than that kid down in Dallas. Mark Cuban's the owner, Dallas Cowboys. Didn't watch him play college, didn't international phenom. Again, one's a star and one's an icon. I think Zion can handle it. But I think sometimes the NBA, I hope they realize how lucky they have been. Because the icons, and the NBA's had very few icons. It's had a ton of great players. Shaq was an icon. MJ was an icon. Magic was an icon. Bird was an icon. Zion's going to be an icon. Not everybody can handle it. Most young people need a little space, need a little time, don't need the microscope. But it was a pleasure to watch them. They're 2 of the top 3 or 4 young players in the league, but they're going to have different experiences in this league. tomorrow, Giannis goes and plays the Lakers. I'd take LeBron as MVP, Giannis second, but that's not going to happen. Giannis going to win. Unless Giannis, just sits out the last 12 games of the year, which even then I think he'd win. But it is interesting when I hear people say, I watched the 60 Minutes piece about 3 years ago on Giannis. Maybe it had been 2 years ago on 60 Minutes. He's the next LeBron. It's like he's never going to be LeBron. Forget the game. Forget the game. International players don't think like American players. And I was telling people this morning is LeBron grows up in America. He's aggressive politically about American politics. He's aggressive in terms of recruiting players. He's aggressive in terms of mobility. He's aggressive in terms of business. He is willing to play the victim. A lot of times with international players, they don't feel that way. Rick Bucher was on our show the other day talking about, Akeem played with Houston for 17 years, and Dirk played with the Mavs for 20 years, and Giannis has said, I don't want to leave. They don't sometimes come to America and think, it's mine, and I'm going to be aggressive, and I'm going to talk about politics, and I'm going to be... It's very possible they don't, the players from other countries that come to America don't see the world like that. And Bucher talked about that.
Name a single international player who has expressed dissatisfaction with where he is and has forced his way to another team. A great player. I mean, you look at Dirk, you look at Pau Gasol, you look at Tim Duncan, Manu, Tony, go down the line of all the great international players who have been made cornerstones on NBA teams. They're grateful that an NBA team thinks that highly of them that they would build their team around them. The idea that they need to go to play in LA or New York or Houston simply is not in their mindset the way it is with American players.
Listen, LeBron was willing to be a villain. He's willing to shout out our president. He's willing to be hyper-mobile and hyper-aggressive. I'm not so sure Giannis sees the world that way. And, so when I hear the next LeBron is so much more than just a basketball player. He has been the face of the league for 15 years. He's a better player than Giannis, but it's more than that. LeBron, to be iconic, he's been willing to really go into the face of some things. I mean, it used to be in this league that if you left your team, you were a bad guy. Now, because of LeBron, if you don't at least consider leaving, you're a crazy guy. Like Paul George is going to stay with Westbrook. Kawhi's going to stay in Canada. Kevin Durant's going to stay in Oklahoma City. LeBron's going to stay in Cleveland. You're criticized if you don't consider. If Giannis loses in the Eastern Conference Finals and Chris Middleton struggles, aren't we all going to go, what are you doing, dude? Bruh, come on. Go play with better players. Go to Golden State. Play with Steph and Clay and Draymond. That's the world LeBron's created, the new world in the NBA. I don't see Giannis as a guy that would do that. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.